hold on just for a little bit longer, but I feel like this is now going to be the point where we get done. Actually, no, that's Norris. He's got an engine fire. No, we've hit the grass on the outside of the circuit. We've gone for a spin. We have thrown it all away, and I'm watching all the positions go away. There goes our teammate. He's pulled off onto the side of the track. Now Max Verstappen, the big beneficiary of the whole McLaren ordeal just a couple of laps ago, is now out with an engine failure, with his teammate Sonny Hayes right behind. And as they exit the final set of corners, it is going to be Oscar Piastri. He has done everything needed. He is charged from the back, and he's going to win the Sao Paulo Grand Prix and the World Championships. It has been a tough season. It has been such a tough season. I came into this as the reigning world champion. It was a new team. I didn't feel like Apex GP who could go for a Constructors' Championship. Obviously, they've really put in the work. They've created a monster of a car. They're going to get the Drivers' Championship with Oscar Piastri. They're going to get the Constructors' Championship. So it is going to be a very happy Apex GP. For myself, though, this move to McLaren has not been easy. We've had incidents. We've had a teammate who has, I'm going to say, he has got the better of me for most of the season. But we finally fight back and get the win.
Well, mate, that was a tough old season, wasn't it? But the tough seasons are the ones where you learn the most. We've got a lot of work to do over the winter, but if you're up for it, we'll come back next season and we'll definitely do better.
Breaking news in the world of Formula 1. Max Verstappen has been seen in conversations with Adrian Newey, who in 2026 started his new journey with Aston Martin Honda. Late into the 2027 season, there were rumours of personnel changes at Red Bull Ford, with it especially looking like one of the drivers would be departing the team at the end of the season. It had been speculated that Franco Colapinto was leaving the Milton Keynes team after a poor run of form from the Argentine, which would open the door for a promotion for either Liam Lawson or Isaac Hadjar from the junior ranks. These images, along with seemingly no Red Bull Ford personnel being present, have led journalists to believe a shock departure from Max Verstappen is on the cards for the 2028 season and could land him a seat at Aston Martin Honda to reunite Verstappen with Newey.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is the beginning of season 4 and it is looking like it is going to be very, very good. If you did miss the last episode, we won the Qatar Grand Prix, as you may have seen there with that opening sequence, and it was our first win of the season as well, which is absolutely wild and just also shows how difficult that last season was, and it's great momentum into the next season, and it was all down to just that last lap pass for the win, and we were right on the edge with the tyre wear as well. Both the Apex GP cars round out the podium to just solidify what had been a fantastic year for my old team, and even though I might not be driving for them anymore, I do enjoy seeing that success just a little bit. It kind of feels a little bit like I helped put the team into that position. For the final standings, though, for Season 3, it was Oscar Piastri, 33 points clear of Sonny Hayes, Norris in third, 34 points further behind, and myself in fifth. It was an absolutely terrible season, 3 points behind Charles Leclerc and Apex GP, where the Constructor Championships by 130 points to McLaren, and then it was Ferrari in third, 71 points further behind. And we're going to jump straight into our contract negotiations, because if you do recall, at the start of last season we signed a 2-year deal with McLaren, and because it was a 2-year deal, this time we're just settling down the final details for our second season with the British squad, and we're going into this season with me bumping up the target driver rating to 96, and this will go into the season level with Lando Norris, and in theory there will be no number 1 or 2 drivers, so hopefully there won't be any papaya rule scenarios that we have seen plenty of times in real life, and none of those shenanigans will hopefully transfer into this career mode. And this leaves only one thing, and that's to now end the season to what has been honestly a dreadful season, with only getting a small handful of podiums, finishing low in the championship, and only getting the 1 win, which was the last episode in Qatar. And we're also going to take a quick look at the championship in review. So we had the 1 win, no pole positions, which is absolutely wild to think about, 5th in the standings, but for our driver ratings, it was a massive season, going up by 4 levels. So it was a very productive season. It was a quiet season, obviously just not one that we really expected or really wanted to have. And now that we do have all of the corporate side of things done, all of the little finer details done, we can actually now get onto how the grid shapes up for this season 4. Apex GP has stayed the same. They will be running with Sonny Hayes and now the reigning world champion Oscar Piastri. For McLaren though, and after being on the rise and even claiming the Constructors' Championship in Season 2, the last season was one to forget by losing to the newest team on the block, and even more so for the reigning champion, Joshua Pearce, who in the end only scored the 1 win, which is his lowest win rate since his career started in 2025 for Apex GP. McLaren will be hoping to rebuild with an unchanged driver lineup of Joshua Pearce and Lando Norris going into season 2028. And now moving on to Ferrari, this team refuses to change anything, and they will head into the new season with both an unchanged car and driver lineup of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, in the hope that this consistency can push the team to something better than a third in the Constructors. Winless in the last 2 seasons, Ferrari will be wanting to at least get a winner to go with finishing third or better in the Constructors. And on to Red Bull Ford, there was rumours towards the end of last season about the future of Team Verstappen was seen talking to Adrian Newey. Now, there was talks that one of the drivers was wanting out, and it was safe to assume that it was going to be Franco Colapinto, who was struggling on form but found it towards the end of the season. In a shock twist, it was Max Verstappen who has left the Milton Keynes team and is on the move for 2028, leaving a void in the team. Big shoes to fill to replace Max Verstappen and drive alongside the ever-improving Franco Colapinto. Esteban Ocon has returned to the Formula 1 grid after being dropped by Haas Toyota in Season 2. They will race into Season 4 with 2 drivers not from their Red Bull Junior program, which is a first in a very, very long time. And onto Mercedes. 2 of their customer teams beat them in the Constructors' Championship last season, and their future rising star Kimi Antonelli finished all the way down in 16th in the Drivers' Championship. They're giving Antonelli another shot as he keeps his seat alongside George Russell, who also struggled, not even able to get a podium last season. But the team themselves have had a big restructure and brought back the Silver Arrows in a hope that this old school look back to their roots will give the team a much needed morale boost to get themselves back towards the top of the standings. And speaking of one of their customer teams, it's Williams next, because best of the rest they were the last season, and Williams want to keep this momentum going strong. They head into 2028 with an unchanged car and driver lineup, keeping both Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, who finished 10th and 12th in the Drivers' Championship, and both drivers scoring regularly inside the top 10. Carlos Sainz even putting his car on the front row sometimes in qualifying, proving the speed of the car. It is there on the 1-lap pace, but they need to work on the race pace department, and that is going to be something to keep an eye on heading into this next season. And on to Haas Toyota, a brand new look for Haas Toyota, going back to an all-black look, extra backing from Toyota with a Gazoo Racing logo prominent on the side pod. They too also have an unchanged driver lineup, feeling that Oliver Behrman, who they've been nurturing since his debut, and Jack Doohan were both able to extract what they could from their package last season and continue with the team into 2028. And Alpine, this year should be the time for Alpine to really see some improvement after their signing last season of Lance Stroll, and with the developments Stroll would have been able to bring into the team, it's going to be crucial for them to move up the order in the Constructors, or they may be facing some struggles in the future. Even with the Stroll family fund in the team, they can't get the results. To make this possible, it's an unchanged car and unchanged driver lineup, keeping both Pierre Gasly and Lance Stroll in the Alpine cars. And Aston Martin Honda, this is one of the teams we were speaking about in the Prix video with that little piece at the start, and with the news of Max Verstappen leaving Red Bull Ford, Aston Martin Honda have thrown everything they had at Max to lure him into the team, including the cherry on top that is their recent signing of Adrian Newey to the team, and putting Max Verstappen back in an Adrian Newey built car, which is going to be absolutely massive for his career. And with the successful signing of Verstappen alongside Paul Aaron to help shape Paul into a future world champion, Honda have also thrown everything they have into this project with a much heavier backed livery compared to previous seasons, even after they started retracting a little bit after a shocking first season with the team. Where does this leave Fernando Alonso though? He has cooled, his second stint in Formula 1 to a close and has decided to retire from the sport. The two-time world champion not on the grid in 2028. For Audi Sport, it's a new look for them going into 2028 with this all because they have a glimmer of hope that despite being back of the pack for some time, they have got themselves a new driver. Nico Hülkenberg has called his time in Formula 1 to a close and has retired, leaving a seat available, and they have snapped up a rising star, Zane Maloney, to the team, and this is going to be a massive signing for themselves. It's the first time in this series that they have got a new driver lineup, and this is going to be alongside a now very seasoned Gabriel Bortoleto, who has shown the hope of getting good performances if he is given the machinery under him to get him there. And onto Racing Bull Ford. It was a dreadful season 3 for the team. Crashes, engine failures, and just a lack of improvement in the car resulted in a last position in the Constructors' Championship. With very little prize money, there isn't a lot the team could do other than keep the same livery and keep their two drivers and keep giving them experience in the hope they can start carrying the team to the odd top 10 finish. Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar will try and do just that for them in this next upcoming season. And now that we've got all of the driver moves, all of the livery changes done and dusted for this next season, it's time to see what improvements we can make to the car before we head to the track in Australia. And speaking of Australia, let's take a look at this new calendar that we have got for Season 4. And as always, we are starting the season in Australia, then we're heading to Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix, the first sprint race of the season, and then it is to Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Then it is to the home of Formula 1, Silverstone, for the British Grand Prix. Then we're off to Belgium for another sprint race weekend, and then to Monza, the Temple of Speed. Azerbaijan will continue on the calendar as well, with Singapore and Qatar rounding out this season. I feel like Qatar was a fantastic place to end the season. It was a sprint race, so there was a lot of opportunities for championship swings, but also it's just one of those tracks that you never know what is going to happen. So I feel like this is going to be a great season coming up for ourselves, and we're going to have a look at the chassis department now. We've got a minor weight redistribution upgrade with the new engine cover, and this will also be on the car before Australia, so excellent first upgrade. And another upgrade that we've got for this chassis department is the major disc upgrade by increasing the disc width, and this will precisely match the 32mm regulation limit to make sure that we are maximizing this car to the very regulation limit. This part will be on before Australia, as it has a 0% chance of failure, and will boost our chassis to be better than Ferrari. So an excellent first upgrade to go along with the other chassis upgrade as well. And for the first race weekend of the new season, there will be mixed weather conditions, but in all of the competitive sessions they should be dry, but there is a small risk of rain, and crucially all the practice sessions will also be in those mixed conditions, so it's going to be very hard to gauge where the car will be by the time we get to qualifying. And taking a look at where the field stacks up for the new season, and it's Apex GP that's still miles ahead of the field. We find ourselves second on the pecking order, but very closely matched with Red Bull, Ford and Ferrari. And then it's Max Verstappen. His effect to the team has already caught on, with Aston Martin Honda jumping up to be on the level playing field with Mercedes. The bottom 5 fairly spread out, with it being Alpine ahead of Haas, Toyota, Williams, Audi Sport, and Racing Bull Ford still at the rear. And let's get into this first qualifying of Season 4.
And a warm welcome, everybody. We're here in the heart of Melbourne. It's Albert Park, and it's qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix.
Well, here we go. It's going to be our first laps in the dry, because you wouldn't believe it, but practice 1, 2, and 3 was a complete washout here in Albert Park. So these first flying laps here in qualifying will be our first in the dry at pace, and really a good place to see where our car is at. In this first lap, it's been alright, it's been clean, there hasn't been too many mistakes, but it's definitely been taken very easily there. And you can see with our time, we're tumbling down the field, 16th now to 17th, and slapping the wall on the exit of the final corner just for good measure. It's a purple middle sector, so we've definitely got some pace around here. We just need to be able to pinpoint it all together and stitch a good lap together, and we can't be doing that running wide at the penultimate corner. That's going to give us a bad run. Now through this final corner, down onto the power nice and early with a bit of DRS, and I don't think it's going to be good enough because we lost a little bit of time there. at that final corner for a moment, and heading now to the final couple of corners in qualifying 1. We're in 14th, so we're just going to be safe. It's another purple middle sector, so that middle sector we're definitely absolutely flying, running a slightly lower wings than I normally would, just to try and get rid of some of that deficit that sometimes there is between the AI and the player down the straights so far in this game. And it's going to be Oscar Piastri fastest in qualifying 1 here, by 2/10 ahead of George Russell, then Hamilton in third, 500ths further behind, Lando Norris in fourth, 800ths further behind as well, and myself down in 14th, nearly a full second off the pace. And knocked out is both the Alpines of Gasly ahead of Lance Stroll, and then it's Liam Lawson, Oliver Behrman, Paul Aaron and Isaac Hadjar makes it both the Racing Bull Fords out of qualifying 1 here, so not a great start for the second Red Bull team. And now to the end of our first flying lap in qualifying 2. It's better than what we did in qualifying 1, but we still need to make massive improvements. But unfortunately, with the amount of laps that we did in qualifying 1, we've only got worn tyres. We've got nothing new, so we have to try and make it through into the next one using tyres that we've already used once, and we've lost a massive amount of time, 0.4 of a second through the first corner, locking it up, running a bit deep, and that means we're going to have to claw back even more time. You can see we've got ourselves back into the green, but that should be about 7 or 8 tenths into the green, and it's going to end up 12th, so we're knocked out of qualifying 2. But it was Sonny Hayes fastest by 8 tenths ahead of his teammate Oscar Piastri. Then it was Ocon in third, a second behind. Norris in 8th, 2 seconds off the pace as well. Knocked out Antonelli by 2 tenths. Myself in 12th, missing out by half a second. And it was about 4 tenths I lost at that first corner, as I said. So it could have been very close to me getting into Q3 on worn tyres if I didn't make that mistake, doing Verstappen. And then the 2 Audi Sports and Maloney ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto round out qualifying 2 here in Melbourne.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula 1 World Championship. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit, 3.28 miles around, with the streets making for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 14 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, and Sonny Hayes completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, and Hamilton. Colapinto, Russell, Albon, and Carlos Sainz. Antonelli, Pearce, Jack Doohan and Verstappen, Maloney, Bortoleto, Pierre Gasly and Lance Stroll, Lawson, Behrman, Aaron and Isaac Hadjar rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. And joining me in the commentary box once again, Naomi Schiff. Hi, Gnomes. As much as I like testing, and I do love testing, and I've really enjoyed the build-up here and all the speculation, I really want to see some action. And finally today, we get some proper action on the track.
This is always such an exciting time in the season. First of all, it's the first time they'll be racing their new cars. So that's always an exciting thing for drivers to look forward to. But also, they've had a long time off during the winter break. So it's about dusting the cobwebs off, getting the rust off of their bones, and really getting their elbows out there and having some fun.
Okay, radio check, radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Alright, let's get this one done. It's first race of Season 4, so I need to get to grips with this new McLaren that I have quicker than I did last season, because immediately I've had a Q2 knockout and my teammate is on the second row, so I need to get to grips with this thing. As for the strategy, gonna stick to the one-stop, starting on the mediums and going to the hards around the lap 13 mark. Never did a long run in practice in the dries, so this will be interesting to see how these tyres handle the conditions here in Albert Park. It's a bit gloomy, it's a bit overcast, but we're away for Season 4 of the F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode, and it has been a brilliant start for ourselves, but not as good as we probably wanted, because look at how many cars got an even better start than us. But look at this, we found a pocket of air around the outside, and we've managed to get around about 3 or 4 of them, and we now find ourselves from 12th up into 8th position immediately off the line. Lando Norris, our teammate, he has stolen the lead away from Oscar Oscar Piastri, the pole sitter, and he is now up into first, and then it's second for Piastri, Leclerc in third, Hayes, and then it's the two Red Bull Fords of Ocon, ahead of his new teammate, Franco Colapinto, Hamilton, myself in 8th position after that brilliant start. Then Albon and George Russell rounds out the top 10, but moving on to the second lap of the race, Lewis Hamilton in his Ferrari. It's about time that we see a bit of pace coming from the Brit, the arguably one of the GOATs of Formula 1, who has been winless for the last 3 seasons in Formula 1, and could this be the season we finally get it? It looks like the Ferraris have got some good pace. Leclerc in third, Hamilton now up into 6th position, so the Ferraris definitely look like they have got a decent package, at least here around Albert Park, which in real life, the Ferraris definitely do. They're generally pretty good around here. You can remember Charles Leclerc getting a win a few years ago, but we've currently got our eyes on this battle because George Russell is trying to get himself ahead of the Williams of Alex Albon, but he's been unable to get it done. That Williams is great at its defensive work and will hold on to that 9th position, but here we go, a change for the lead. It's Oscar Piastri finally using that pace of that Apex GP. We know they've got it because we've seen the performance shots, how much better that car is, and so now Piastri will drive away into the sunset. He's now nearly a full second, and now a full second clear of Lando Norris up into 2nd position. Charles Leclerc is trying to get that position away from Lando now, but he can't get it done down the inside at the far chicane. That would have been a move and a half. He was able to get that one done. Colapinto now gets himself ahead of Hamilton. And so Hamilton now falls back down into 7th position. We're still stuck in 8th position with George Russell finally getting that move done on that Williams. And now Lando, here he goes. Can he get that move up into 2nd position? He's got Leclerc around the outside and he can't get the move done. Leclerc, he holds on to it in 2nd position. But now, as we're about halfway through lap 5, we've got our first objective of the Grand Prix. We need to get ourselves ahead of Franco Colapinto. So it's not the next car of Lewis Hamilton, it's the car in front of Franco, who did just get himself ahead. And so we've got some work to do. We have to get ourselves around that Ferrari and now around the Red Bull Ford as well of Franco Colapinto. But this battle up the front for 2nd position is ever going on. And this is only playing into the favour of Oscar Piastri because he now finds himself nearly 2.5 seconds further ahead into the lead. So the more these guys battle, the more he'll extend that lead. And just as now Hayes tries to get himself around Charles Leclerc, which he is going to do, that little battle there that lasted a couple of corners and allowed now Norris to get 1.5 seconds over 3rd position. So it's just showing how much a battle really costs you around a circuit like Albert Park, and how crucial it's going to be to use those DRS zones, the 3 of them that you've got around here, to try and, the 4 DRS zones that you've actually got around here to get that overtake done, because if you try and do it anywhere else, you're just going to be losing too much time to the car in front. As George Russell now, he is still trying to defend this position from Alex Albon. He hasn't been able to pull away, and now he's pulling off to the side, and he's got an engine failure. Maybe that's why he's struggling so much. The Works Mercedes has been struggling a lot against a lot of its customer teams of late, and look at that. His motor has just gone up in smokes. George Russell is the first retiree of the new season. In front, it is all getting dicey. Colapinto has caught up to the back of his new teammate. He's trying to get ahead, but he can't do it. And Hamilton is trying to get in with this battle as well. So now, all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a 4-car battle pack. And it's the 2 Red Bull Fords, a Ferrari, and myself in the McLaren. Are we going to be able to get anything done here? It looks like we've had a half-decent run coming out the far chicane. We're tucked up right behind Lewis Hamilton. We haven't been able to get that objective done. We weren't able to catch Colapinto in time, but so be it. We've still got 19 laps of racing, so we've still got plenty of time to try and get ourselves further up the field, and that is a successful overtake on Lewis Hamilton. That's put us now up into 7th position, and Hamilton, he continues to fall down the field, now down in 8th position. And Sonny Hayes, it was only a matter of time, wasn't it, with the Apex GP cars. They now run 1-2, and Hayes takes that 2nd position away from our teammate Lando Norris. Further down the field, though, here's Kimi Antonelli, the lone Works Mercedes now, left in this Grand Prix, and he gets himself now up into the points, and that could be a crucial point in the Constructors. We've seen the last couple of seasons, at least for the minor placings, the Constructors Championship definitely goes down to the last race or two, so even though it's the 1 point at the moment, it could play very crucial towards the end of the season. As now we're under attack from Hamilton. I wasn't really expecting him to go for it, so hence why I never went defensive at all, but He showed the nose, I gave him the space, and that was a good hard battle. In the end, we've come out on top, and look at that, we've got our next objective now, lap 13 of the Grand Prix. We're also going to be boxing this lap, and we need to try and stay ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So now that Hamilton has been showing there's a little bit of pace in that Ferrari, he wants to try and get himself back ahead of myself. We need to keep him behind, and to do that, we're going to have to defend really hard, at least for our in-lap, to make sure that he can't get any sort of overcut on us. And so now, Piastri, he's in the lane, and so the race leaders are in, so it's definitely the pit window time, and so our predictions on the strategy have come in good despite the lack of running in at practice. But this is one thing I don't like about these objectives. So I defended, right, but because I came into the pit lane, it's failed. And then, because I was distracted at the absolute shock, it failed. I was a late turn in. Just so much was happening in that one point. So, we've had a slow pit stop. And so, you can see we've lost a bit of ground there, actually, to Esteban Ocon there in that Red Bull Ford. And Lance Stroll and his Alpine has actually managed to get the both of us. So, we've got some overtaking to do. Stroll actually hasn't come into the lane as of yet. But that just shows how far we've fallen down the field. We've now caught up to the back of Ocon, thanks to Stroll holding him up through the back section of the circuit. Are we going to be able to try and make quick work of Lance Stroll as well? He's on the dirty side of the road from trying to go defensive with the Ocon, so we're going to get a good run out of the corner, and there we go, down the inside, and that is us now up into 12th position. But as we cross the line after the next corner, I'm hoping to see that go up to about 7th position, because that was where we were at by the time we came into the lane. So there's definitely a few cars in the lane. There's Lewis Hamilton. He's just exiting the pit lane, and there it is. P7 for ourselves, so we haven't really lost anything. In fact, we've actually gained on Lewis Hamilton. There is a 3-second gap between ourselves now, as this is exactly what we love to see. Gabriel Bortoleto and his new Audi with a new teammate as well, so it's a revamped Audi Works team here. He's now up into 9th position. He's still yet to make a pit stop, but he's showing brilliant pace to get himself ahead of the other Williams of Carlos Sainz. And the Williams is not a slow car, mind you, as well. At the moment, it's a little bit further into the back half of the midfield, but it is definitely a car worth scoring points, so it's excellent to see the Audi Sports now finally in a position where they could possibly do that. And look at that, that's a battle for the effective lead at the moment. Charles Leclerc ahead of Oscar Piastri, but is he going to be able to hold on to it? Because we know the Apex cars are so good, especially down the straights. Is he going to be able to reel him in? Because it's only about 0.2 of a second, and look at that, the DRS speed, the overspeed the Apex car has got. Is he going to be able to sweep around the outside? He does, going into the far chicane, and he takes the lead away. But Sonny Hayes is now going to be the big beneficiary here, because he could use the DRS, and the fact that Charles Leclerc does not, to his advantage. In the end, he'll sit back and he'll hold on to third, but at the moment, it's Piastri leading the way ahead of Leclerc and Hayes, and that's your podium as it stands. And then it's Lando Norris, the two Red Bull Fords of Colapinto and Ocon, myself in P7 at the moment, and then it's Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, and Gabriel Bortoleto still holding on to that points-paying position. And then it's the lone Mercedes of Antonelli, Albon, Doohan, Gasly, Maloney, Aaron, Lawson, Behrman, Stroll, Hadjar, and Verstappen. And was that a slow Hadjar that I may have just seen there as well? It looked like Hadjar was off to the side and running a little bit slow. And look at that, it is a slow Isaac Hadjar, and he has had an engine failure. It has gone up in smokes. Look at that. That is a massive engine failure, and the second one so far of this Grand Prix. So Hadjar now joins Russell as a non-finisher in today's Grand Prix. But Leclerc, he is not giving this one up. He is fighting to the absolute end. He has still got the pace to hang with the two Apex cars. It is Lando Norris in 4th. He still hasn't quite caught up to this battle pack yet, but if the Apex GP cars are going to battle it out as they are now, he could very well get himself, and we'll have a 4-way battle for the lead. Leclerc has tapped out since they start battling, and look at that, it is still a 2-second lead Charles Leclerc has got, but he has to be careful not to overwork that Ferrari. Don't use up too much of the tyres into this second part of the race. And Sonny Hayes now gets himself up into 2nd position ahead of his reigning World Championship teammate, Oscar Piastri. And further down the field, is this going to be Kimi Antonelli getting himself up into 9th position? Yes, it is. The lone Mercedes that remains is now scoring 2 points for the team in this Grand Prix. And here is our teammate, Lando Norris. He's caught himself up to the back of Oscar Piastri. So Piastri, he's fading. He had a fantastic opening stint on those medium compound tyres, walked away with an early lead. But since going onto the hard tyres, his teammates definitely had the better of him, and now Lando's even been able to get by him as well, and back on board with ourselves here. It's been pretty quiet for ourselves, because we've had the pace to stick with Esteban Ocon, but we haven't been able to get close enough to really pull an overtake on him. But we can't be doing this for too long, because Hamilton, it was 3 seconds between us. It's now only 1.4. So is this the moment we get that overtake done? It absolutely is. And at the same time, we need to try and burn some fuel as well, because we kind of overfueled a little bit just to make sure we don't run into any issues with our first long runs of the weekend. Because as I said, in practice, it was wet, and it was just a washout. It wasn't really any use because the competitive sessions were going to be completely dry, and so no long runs were really completed, and even in the wet, you don't really get a true understanding of how the fuel's going to be going. So in the end, we fail that one. We don't get the fuel load that the team was after, but it was only by like 0.1 of a kilo or something like that. It was not by a lot. So we're very close to what they want to get. But here is Ocon. He's trying to go around the outside. We're not having any of that. I'm better off to be trying to defend than to overtake. We have seen that so far in this race. My car definitely lacking a little bit of straight line speed, and especially in the first and third sector, because I've also taken off a little bit of wings to try and aid that straight line speed. I'm vulnerable through these sections of the circuit, so I'm better off defending at a couple of those crucial corners where you can try and send an overtake. Better off defending there than I am to try and pull off an overtake, because I'm just going to lose too much speed and time trying to keep up with them through the first and third sector. And unfortunately, that's also where the best overtaking opportunities are. And look at that. You can definitely tell the tyre wear is starting to kick in with only 6 laps to go of this Grand Prix. Big snap of oversteer on the final corner, but we're better on the brakes. We sweep around the outside of Esteban Ocon, and that is going to be us back up to that 6th position that we're trying to defend for. We've got 7 seconds in front of us, and nearly 8 seconds, so I don't think we're going to be able to get ourselves up into a top 5 position for the first race of the season, but this is going to help us. Behind us, it's Lewis Hamilton and Esteban Ocon battling it out. Hamilton using the pace of his Ferrari, which we've seen so much of so far as well in the hands of Charles Leclerc, now gets himself up to the 7th position ahead of the Red Bull Ford, and that now puts us vulnerable as well, because the pace that he showed to not only get that overtake done, but immediately close back up is absolutely mind-blowing using the DRS. And once again, we're better on the brakes, and we sweep around the outside, and we defend that position, and we still hold on to that P6, but it's now Hamilton that we have to keep our eyes on in the mirror. Going on to lap 29, though, the final lap of the Grand Prix. You can see the tyre wear indicator is on. We're defending once again. We're able to sweep around the outside of Lewis Hamilton. And is this going to be enough to hold on for that P6? We're going to have to find out, because all eyes now go to Sonny Hayes. He has driven a brilliant race to take the win away from Oscar Piastri, who looks so certain to get the win at home. But it's going to be the American of Hayes getting the win and the first blood here in Season 4. Lando Norris, our teammate, crosses the line in second. Charles Leclerc will round it out on the podium for Ferrari. And it's going to be Lygon Street up in joy with a podium in Albert Park. But for ourselves, we're battling right down to the end to try and keep Lewis Hamilton behind us. We have to make sure this final corner here is a bit cleaner, but we've run wide. And so now that is going to mean that Hamilton's going to get a good run at us, but we're going to just hold on for that 6th position. But I reckon it would have been only about a 10th of a second between us. What a way to finish it out.
Flies, and Sonny Hayes today can say, I'm a winner.
Well, they kept us guessing during pre-season testing. We all wondered who it was going to be, and to have them drawn out here today, that they are the ones to beat, just goes to show that all the work they put in has really counted.
What a day it's been for Formula One, and what a day it's been for these 3 drivers. Time for the podium celebrations. Time for our drivers to celebrate.
So Sonny Hayes has taken the victory here in Albert Park ahead of my teammate Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc to round out the podium for Ferrari, who seemed to usually do alright in Melbourne, as I said, during the race, and he has proven that once more. For myself, it was a decent recovery drive, but I can't be doing recovery drives. Pretty much made all of the positions up on that first lap, and then I just kind of held my ground for the rest of the Grand Prix. The rest of the top 10 was Oscar Piastri, Franco Colapinto, myself in the 6th position, Lewis Hamilton, Esteban Ocon, Kimi Antonelli, and Alex Albon rounding out the points, with Isaac Hadjar and George Russell the non-finishers for the Australian Grand Prix. And for the driver's standings, it's Hayes leading the way by 7 points to Lando Norris, then Charles Leclerc in 3rd, 3 points behind Lando, myself in 6th, 2 points behind Franco Colapinto, and Apex GP leads the Constructors' Championship by 11 points to McLaren, then it's Ferrari in 3rd, 5 points further behind, and I'm losing my teammate rivalry against Lando Norris. It's 6 out of 6 for Lando heading in to the next one. And then it's driver ratings time. Experience, pace, focus, lose points, but the racecraft and winners gain points to maintain my driver rating of 95. And after that drive I did today, the recognition has actually swung to 52% in my favor. So a bit of an interesting one, that one. But that is going to be all for this episode. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe. And for the next one, we head to Shanghai for the first sprint race weekend of the season for the Chinese Grand Prix.